Alright friends, so last time we were working on this project, we were using diagonal lines in order to create our tree in an interesting perspective. Remember, your perspective is your point of view. And so in this tree, we're using 1-point perspective to make it look like we're standing underneath the tree looking up. Today we're going to be adding texture to our tree. So we will be using some oil pastels to color in our tree trunk and the tree branches. So we will start with our brown, and what we're going to do is just color in just like it was a crayon. Oil pastels are a little bit different. They are made from oil instead of being made from wax like a crayon. So they can get a little bit messy. A lot of times after we're holding this for a while, it kind of starts to melt and it gets a little bit of brown or whatever color you're using on your fingers, and sometimes it smears if you're not careful. So we want to just be as careful as we can be to not make a big mess with the oil pastel all over our paper. But we're just going to go slow, and we're going to fill in all of our brown first. Then once we have all of the brown filled in, we're going to use some white and some black to make the implied texture of tree bark. And so we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So one thing I want you to notice as I'm coloring, you will be able to see a little bit of your white paper through there, unless you're pressing super hard. And when you press super hard with oil pastel, that's when it really starts to get super messy. It will cover all of the white paper. You won't see any of that shining through anymore, but it also makes a big mess. So we are going to try not to push super duper hard. We're just going to color it in as best we can. Once we are done with our trunk, I'm going to turn and start coloring in my branches. I'm trying to stay inside the lines, but I'm trying to go a little bit fast just for the sake of our video. I don't want our video to be too long. You are going to go nice and slow, making sure that you have all of your color inside the lines. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and pause the video and finish up, and then we'll start on the next step in just a second. Okay, so now I have finished coloring in all of my brown branches and tree trunk. Next thing we're going to do is get a paper towel. And we're going to kind of wrap this paper towel around our pointer finger. And we're going to use this to blend in the oil pastel. So all I'm going to do is rub my brown oil pastel with my paper towel. And that's just going to blend the oil pastel into the paper a little bit, and you're going to see how those white areas become a little less noticeable. It is so important that you stay inside your lines, because if your paper towel gets outside of the lines, then it's going to make a big brown smudge on your paper. So I'm still being careful to stay inside the lines. I'm just kind of blending with my finger that brown together. Just like this. I'm going to go ahead and pause my video again to finish up my branches, and then we'll talk about adding the. Okay, now that I'm done blending all of my brown together, I'm going to go back with the brown, and I'm going to press a little bit hard, and I'm just making some lines. And that is going to start to make it look like the texture of the tree bark. So pressing medium hard, I'm just making some lines all the way up into my tree, so that we start to get some visual texture or implied texture of tree bark. I'm going to go back with some white, and I'm not coloring all of it. I'm just going to add a few highlights Again, just some little lines here and there. As your tree goes up, you're going to have less of those lines. I'm going to also add some black, and again, just a little bit here and there, not a lot. The black is really dark, so we don't want to overpower our brown and make everything black. We're just going to put little bits all the way up, and again, they get less as they get farther away. And then I can go back with my brown again. Let me pull this up and see if you can see my texture a little bit better. So you can see how I have brown, I have some of these little black lines sprinkled in there, and now I'm going to go back with my brown, and I'm going to go right over the top, and that helps blend in those colors, and it starts to look more and more like tree bark. So let me lift this up so you can see a little bit closer here. So look at how that black and the white highlights and the brown all come together to create the texture of tree bark on your tree trunk. You're going to do the same techniques, adding a little bit of white and a little bit of black into your tree branches also, and then using the brown again to go back and blend in those texture colors. And that is going to be everything that we are going to do today. If you do not get this finished today, it's okay. You will have more time to work on it in our next art time. But this is our goal today, to add texture into our tree to make it look more realistic.